This is the ministry of Moses, part 101. Let us consider verse 13 to 17. Then Balak said to him, "Please come with me to another place, from which you may see them. You shall only see the outer. You shall only see the outer part of them, and shall not see them all. Curse them for me from here." So he brought him to the field of Zophim, to the top of Pisgah, and built 7 altars, and offered a bull and a ram on each altar. And he said to Balak, "Stand here by your burnt offerings, while I meet the Lord over there." Then the Lord met Balaam and put a word in his mouth, and said, "Go back to Balak. Thus you shall speak." So he came to him, and there he was, standing by his burnt offering. And the princes of Moab were with him. And Balak said to him, "What has the Lord spoken?" Initially, before he got to this place, Balak took Balaam to a high place of, to high places of Baal. That is, you can find that in Numbers 22, verse 41. Now, it was from these high places of Baal that they began to view the Israelites. Balaam knew where the king was taking him, but yet he was comfortable, with it. When, as the altar of God suddenly became a shrine, Balaam was comfortable going to the shrine with an ungodly king, because of how dearly he loved the reward of ungodliness. Baal was an idol that has gained a serious recognition in the land. And one of the worships of Baal involves human sacrifice. Baal is one of those idols that is not only satisfied with the blood of animals, as it also receives the blood of humans, especially children. So the Baal worshippers knows when to sacrifice the blood of animals and that of humans. Since Baal was the major god of the land of Moab, they built high places in the name of Baal, and those high places were called the high places of Baal. It is just like a wealthy man building estate in the name of his god. Now, the reason they needed several locations for Baal was so that the people could access the god anytime, since a whole nation were worshiping it. So, this was why it was high places of Baal. The word high places, now the word places was used to show that they had many points where that god can be worshipped. That's why the word places was used. So it's like an estate. You have several buildings where you can worship the god there. So anybody can come to that environment at any time to worship Baal. It was this location that Balaam was brought. It was this location that Balaam was brought into, and yet it was comfortable. It is important to note that no one comes to the high places of Baal for nothing. Anytime people go there, then just know that it is time for sacrifice. It is not a sacrifice you go for. It is not a place you go for excursion. Once you find yourself there, then get ready to render sacrifice unto Baal. The high places of Baal is not for tourism. It is for sacrifice. It is an environment where you will naturally feel the terror of Baal. That idol rules that territory. The high places of Baal. It is important to note that Balaam, Balak, and Baal have a link. That is why both name begins with B-A-L. Balak, Balaam, and Baal. You know, you see, both the king and the prophet had an idolatry background. The king continued in his idolatry background while Balaam could not because of the call of the Lord upon his life. If you study the meaning of Baal, Balaam, and Balak, there is one word that is common to them, and that word is destruction. The meaning of these three names reveals destruction. Both Balaam and Balak are names that has a link with Baal. Balaam is just like saying Ogunsheyi, and Balak is like you are saying Ogunbiyi. Now, both name has a connection with Ogun, which is an idol, which is Baal. Both Balaam and Balak has a connection with Baal because that was their family god. The problem, the problem the problem Balaam had was that though he is now called a prophet, he is now called as a prophet by the Lord, he finds it hard to totally let go of all those idolatry things he has learned while he was growing up, since his family god was Baal before God called him out. So this made it easy for Balaam to operate in the spiritual realm and also in demonic realm. He knows how to switch, between these two realms. That was why when he got to the high places of Baal, he instructed the king to set up 7 altars that will receive the blood of, of bull and rams. Now, the question is, how did he know that? He knew that because he could remember how they did, how they usually, render sacrifice to Baal while he was young. He was a minister, but yet the knowledge of idolatry was still very sound in his memory. So he will give the king an instruction on divination. Then he will leave that altar and go and speak to God. He thinks because he is not the one killing those animals on the altar, then he is not involved. The answer to this is a capital no. Who brought the idea in the first place? Is it not Balaam? This is how many Christians live their lives today. They won't go to they won't go for idolatry festivals in their family, but they will send their money there. They will send their financial contribution towards the festival. Who are you fooling? If you have sent your money for a festival, you have gone there physically. That's what it means. It shows that you are endorsing what they are doing. You know you can't abort a child, but you are telling your friend the benefit of abortion because she is pregnant outside marriage. Yet you claim you will not be guilty of the offense if she commits abortion. Who are you deceiving? Many of us act like Balaam. We make people sin, yet we will act like we know nothing about it. We will lead many into terrible things. And after they get into trouble, we will blame them and act like we are innocent. Beware of the way of Balaam. Those who walk on that path will never meet God, because the end of the road leads to destruction.